We all know it, we all watched it, and then it was over. Friends hit American TV screens in 1994 and made household names of its cast. In today's episode of Talks for 10, executive producer Kevin Bright tells us how the show was born, and how it became one of the biggest TV shows of all time. Enjoy.
My partners, Marta, Kauffman, David Crane, and myself, we decided we wanted to do something that really came from us. We all are ex-New Yorkers and all lived in New York at that time in our lives when we had just graduated from college, and was that time, as Marta and David always say, where our friends were our family. People in their 20s were not really featured on television as central characters. You know, they weren't really the central focus.
Kevin Bright, along with Marta Kauffman and David Crane, created the US comedy series Friends, where young people were the central focus. It was about the lives of 20-somethings. Ross, Monica, Rachel, Phoebe, Chandler and Joey. But the pilot episode shown to selected audiences in LA didn't suggest the hit the show was to become.
You go to focus group testings where you watch people watch your show and they have these little dials that they twist when they like it and it goes the other way when they don't. And I would say Friends did not test off the charts at all.
And was it always Friends? Was it always going to be Friends?
Well, no, there was a little journey in the title. We bounced around. We actually when we shot the pilot, the name of the show was 6 of 1. Everybody just kept going half dozen of the other, and that wasn't really the effect we wanted. So the title changed to Friends Like Us. Somebody said, why don't you just call it Friends? And that's what it became.
The only actor you had in mind when you wrote the characters was David Schwimmer as Ross, is that right?
That's correct. David had auditioned for us on another show. It was a pilot, never got on the air. And while he didn't get that part, he never went out of our heads. He was just so unique. He was, dark, handsome, brooding, moody, and his voice just stayed in Marta and David's head. So when they started writing the script, Ross was going to be David Schwimmer. He didn't know it yet, but Ross was going to be David Schwimmer.
And what about the rest? I mean, how did they all fall into place? Because as you say, the chemistry was there at the beginning, but I'm sure the process to get it there must have taken a while.
Well, the rest was a far more difficult process. Marta Kauffman and I did most of the casting. We saw hundreds of actors for each part. It just wasn't coming to life. It wasn't funny the way we had heard it in our heads. And then Lisa Kudrow came in and read Phoebe, and all of a sudden the lights went back on again. She brought Phoebe to life and brought so many levels to it that we hadn't even imagined. Then we kind of hit the wall again, and we saw Jennifer and we saw Matthew Perry. But the problem with both of them was they were already signed to other shows, and if those shows had gotten picked up, we would have lost them. So we took a huge risk and put them in the pilot knowing that we could lose them. But it worked out in our favor. And then finally, Courteney and Matt was something that came down to the network.
And how crucial do you think the casting was to the ultimate success of the series?
So much of what the characters became came out of those actors, things that weren't necessarily originally imagined in the writing. Matthew Perry's over-enunciation on certain words became part of Chandler. The actors really took the characters to a place that I think put them in the hearts of the audience.
Although all three are labelled as creators of the show, they had very different roles.
They wrote the script, and it was sort of my job to realize the show visually. What was it going to look like? What was it going to pace like? And in that respect, I really had in my mind a different-looking sitcom than we had previously seen. And I think you see that in Friends, especially in Monica's apartment. Sitcoms had tended to be designed with neutral walls in the background because they felt that the skin tones of the actors popped better against those. But I was always frustrated by those drabby looks because, it's called color television for a reason. So we put very bold teal and purple on the walls in Monica's apartment, which was a shock to some executives when they first saw it. But once it got going, it became a trademark of the show.
They'd got the cast and the look of the show, but it took a while before they realised they had a hit on their hands.
The big hit part of it actually came the summer after the first season. During the summer and the reruns, people found us that hadn't found us before. And so we became the #1 show on television that summer. And I guess the second departure for knowing that was when our theme song started being played on the radio. It started with the DJ in Buffalo who just edited our song off the television set and sort of put it in a loop, and people started requesting it, and that demanded a longer version of the song. And we went back in the recording studio with the Rembrandts, and Marta and David wrote more lyrics, and the song was a hit on the radio.
When it hasn't been your day, your week, your month, or even your year, but I'll be there for you.
The show's 6 relatively unknown actors became megastars. Friends inspired fashion, interior design, and even haircuts. Who doesn't remember the Rachel?
Marta and David absolutely did not write the hair. That was something Chris McMillan, who is still working with Jennifer today, designed that hairdo. You know, you get a little bit sensitive because you're making a television. I think, all the actors probably did too, because, we wanted people talking about the show was funny, that the stories were good, the acting, but they were talking about hair for a while. So, makes you feel a little insecure. And then certainly none of us had hair as good as Jennifer's. So it really made us feel insecure.
When Friends began, the cast were paid $22,500 an episode. By its final season, they were being paid $1 million for each show. And after 10 years of watching New York's favourite 20-somethings fall in love, split up, get hired, get fired, get pregnant, in 2004, the final episode was filmed.
After it was finished and, I called cut for the last time, the really sad part, the ruthless part of television is you might imagine that, wow, the show is on the air for 10 years. They're going to leave that set up for a little while and allow people to come around and see it, and, maybe they'll put it on the Warner Brothers tour. Immediately, and I mean immediately following that audience leaving, everything started coming down. Everything started coming off the shelves. And I remember Marta Kauffman and I sitting on the stoop inside Monica's apartment, that little step down from the back, and just watching it going on all around us. And it became surreal. At that point, we just wanted to do something. How do we preserve this crew that's worked together for 10 years? Somebody took one wall down in Monica's apartment, and one person signed it, and then another person, and then eventually everybody that worked on that show signed that wall, and I believe it's on display in the Warner Brothers lot, where the Central Perk set at least continues to be held. But it was very sad. It was unbelievably sad.
Kevin Bright continued a career in producing, including the Friends reunion in 2021. The cast reunited to talk about their own personal experiences for the last time, before the sad death of Matthew Perry in 2023. Friends continues to place high in the TV charts worldwide. Thanks for listening to Talks for 10.